please welcome, give it up for Wil Wheaton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you and welcome. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
So I got to ask, before we get to the questions here, I got to ask, were you involved much with the fictional version of you when they were writing it?
At times I was. There are moments, the moments on The Big Bang Theory when you see their version of Wil Wheaton kind of like at his most vulnerable, where he talks about his own life experiences and how they affected his development, when he's offering advice to anybody. A lot of that is me. There was this wonderful moment a number of years ago where I was on tour with some friends and we were in Texas. And the thing about Texas is that the distance between towns in Texas is measured in light years. And we were driving from one to another, and Steve Molaro, the showrunner, called me and he said, so we're doing this thing, and he described the bit to me, and he said, so I was wondering if you had any moments in your life, in your personal life as an actor, where you felt things that could have been kind of similar to this. And I said, well, actually, yes. And I told him what those were, and nearly all of them, almost word for word, made it into the episode that we shot, which was extremely validating and gratifying for me. It was me getting to say to the world, being an actor is not always great. And most of the time, the work part of it sucks. And the going to audition part of it is awful. And you're not supposed to talk about that. You're supposed to pretend that it's great and it's always, premieres and parties and everything. And getting to actually be really honest about that and vulnerable about that was really meaningful to me. It allowed me to take off this mask I'd been forced to wear my entire life. Look, when you get to contribute story ideas to the freaking Big Bang Theory, that's pretty great, right? Yeah. So I was pretty excited about that.
It's great. Would you mind getting some questions
I would be
from the folks?
Delighted to take questions from the audience.
All right. Sideshow Dan, I think I'll take the first question right down here. All right. Right down here. First question for Wil.
All right. Hello, Wil. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much.
All right. So this is a two-part question I've always wanted to ask you. How was it again to contribute to an animated project, The Secret of NIMH, with director Don Bluth? And what was your fondest memory of working with River Phoenix on Stand By Me?
When I did The Secret of NIMH, I think I was either 8 or 9 years old, and it was the very first voiceover job I'd ever done. And all I can remember of that was going into a studio somewhere to do the audition, and I read all the lines and I did all the things that they asked me to do. And when we were done, somebody, and I don't know who it was, said, so can you come do this job next week? And I'm like, a child. And I was like, I'll have to ask my parents, but I think so. And I went out into the waiting room, and I think my mom was taking me on auditions then, and she was like, so how did it go? And I said, they want me to come do this next week. Can I do that? And she was like, wait, what? And we went and talked to them, and they cast me I have never been cast on the spot like that before. At least that I know of. I found out from other directors over time that I was cast in the room immediately, and I just didn't know for weeks. I can't really pick out a particular moment from Stand By Me that is more important than another one, because to say this memory with River is the most cherished and the most precious and the most important is to say that all these others are somehow less than that. And in my heart, it's just not like that. It's just this one big, beautiful, tapestry of all these wonderful things we did together. I will tell you that I knew he was special. I turned 13 when we did Stand By Me. River turned 15. I knew that he was special. I knew that he was a generational talent. I knew that he was going to have the career that everyone who ever chooses to become an actor wants. We all saw that in him. We all knew that he was operating at a level that the rest of us were just pretending to operate on. It is a terrible tragedy that he died so young. It's a terrible loss for everyone who was close to him. It's an artistic loss for our species that he wasn't around to bring life into who even knows what he could have done since then.
Okay, we have a question right over here.
Hi, Mr. Wheaton.
Hi.
You were on my favorite television show of all time, Leverage, as the villain Chaos.
Oh, it was so much fun. Thank you.
What was that like for you playing a villain? Did you have more fun with it than some of your other roles? Like, what did you like so much?
You can't see me smiling behind my mask, but I promise you I am. I had the absolute greatest time doing that. He was such a delightfully douchey character. There's this wonderful moment in my career where for a minute I'm doing these great D-bag characters. It's Dr. Parrish on Eureka, and Chaos on Leverage, and Phlox on The Guild. And the early years of Wil Wheaton on The Big Bang Theory when he's kind of a troll to Sheldon. It was so fun to be those, because that's antithetical to who I am. Like none of those things are ever okay. The thing that was most fun about playing Chaos is that John Rogers, who created the show, John and Amy Berg, who created the character, John and Amy and I sat down and we talked about Chaos's motivations, and we all concluded that he desperately wants to be in Nate Ford's crew, like more than anything in the world. He wants to be that guy with those groups of people. And they won't take him, they won't let him. So he's like kind of acting out and hoping if I can thwart these dudes, they'll eventually be like, we're so tired of fighting with you, we'd love for you to come be on our side. But the thing about Chaos is he sucks and he doesn't know it. He's like, he's okay, he's fine, right? Like, he can get through security on like an ATM, but he's not Hardison, right? But he doesn't know it, and he really believes that he's that good. So the very last episode, when Hardison and Chaos are keyboard writing next to each other, I remember thinking, buddy, you got there. Like, you finally got where you wanted to be. Congratulations. It was an incredibly, incredibly fun thing to do. And being those characters you love to hate was incredibly fun. Just so much fun. Because every single day it was, how much further can I push this guy being a shit? Like, what can I do? Like, how far can we push this and see? And every time I thought I had taken him way too far, the directors would always say, like, that's good, go a little more. Okay.
A question right down here in the middle.
Hi, Will.
Hi.
I know that you're a bit of a D&D player, just a little bit.
A little bit.
What's your favorite memory playing D&D, or what's your favorite experience doing D&D?
I have played so many thousands of games of D&D, and I've played with so many different groups. I was in a campaign that lasted 10 years. By the end of the campaign, we were killing the gods, which was great. Even the lawful characters were justified because the gods had like turned their back on the people or whatever. That was really exciting, although strangely anticlimactic after 10 years for it to just kind of end. Honestly, the most memorable, meaningful, and important Dungeons & Dragons-based memory in my entire life is me being 11 years old and opening up the red basic box for the very first time when it was brand new in 1983. That was my Christmas gift from my great aunt. My great aunt is the only person in my family who ever saw me. My parents didn't see me, my aunts and uncles didn't see me, like nobody bothered trying to see me. They didn't get past, this kid is an actor. My great aunt really saw me and really knew who I was, and she knew that I was a weird kid who loved fantasy and loved imagination and loved reading and all of these things, and she had heard that this was a game for smart kids who really liked to use their imaginations, and she was like, that's you, buddy. And she gave it to me, and honestly, I felt really ripped off. My cousins got video games that Christmas, and my brother and sister got like toys, and I got books, I got homework. But when I opened it up, the very first line inside that book, when you open it up, is it says, this is a game that is fun, it helps you to imagine. I'm like, okay, so I have some editorial notes on this. But as an 11-year-old, seeing that, I thought, well, they can't say that if it's not true. And as I started reading it, I realized in this world, all the things that make me weird in the real world, and all the things that make me a target, all the things my dad makes fun of me about, all the things my bullies make fun of me about, actually make me really special in this world and make me matter in this world. And I never left. It's like I found a place to exist. I even endured 3.5 and 4.0. Like, I know, right? I've just never left. It's an incredibly rewarding journey for me.
Great, and you have to see the shirt and the question.
I love your shirt.
Thank you. Hey, Will, have you ever been in like the back rooms of the Star Trek conventions with whether it's your cast or any of the other casts and like come up with an idea and said, we should pitch this?
Yes.
Okay.
I was at Star Trek Mission Chicago earlier this year, and I was talking to Mike McMahon, the creator of Lower Decks. I said, I just want to pitch you this ridiculous idea. It's so dumb, but I like a thing that I want us to do. And he was like, go for it. I said, all right. Wesley comes to the Cerritos. For some reason, we don't know what it is, but he's on the Cerritos. And he wants Mariner to think he's cool. Not romantically at all. He's just like, you're the captain's kid. What are you talking about? You're amazing. Like, let me impress you. And every time Wesley's going to do something cool, Boimler shows up. And Boimler is like a little dog who's so excited he can't stop peeing. And like it just keeps so by the time we get to the third act, Wesley cannot stand this guy. It's, oh my God, he is coming to ruin everything for me. And we didn't get to like the actual resolution of it. We don't know actually what happens. But I said, I just don't know why he's on the Cerritos. And McMahon says, I know why he's on the Cerritos. If you look back to those scenes that were cut from Nemesis, which are non-canonical, please do not make me fight you about this. People always want to argue with me about this. I was going to tell you, I outrank everyone in this building when it comes to this question. He says, Wesley just shows up when there's weddings. Anywhere in all of space and time, that's how he uses his magic traveler powers. He's like, I heard there's a really great cake at this wedding. I heard that blah blah got the Pixies to play at their reception, so I'm going to that wedding. So that's why he's on the Cerritos to attend a wedding. And I said, okay, so the title of the episode is The Wedding Crusher. This will never get made, but because Mike and I and Tawny are all improvisers, there is a non-zero chance that I could write this as 3 pages and convince Tawny and Jack and Mike to get up on stage with me somewhere and just read it. So that's one of my big dream projects that I'm working on right now. And every now and then I text Mike and just ask him how The Wedding Crushers is coming along. And he's like, still working on it. We're still working on it.
Question way in the back on that wall.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm just going to continue on that one you said before. I loved your Chaos character. And
thank you so much.
Too. Since they rebooted that thing, did they ever approach you to revisit that character?
They didn't, and I suspect that is because they would have to pay usage fees to bring Chaos into this new iteration of Leverage. They would have to pay the creator of the character. That's one of the reasons that that production might decide we're not going to spend money on this. They also may have just concluded, like, we've got all of our stories and we don't need them. Leverage is one of the few things that if I'm like essentially retired from on-camera acting now, but Leverage is one of the very few things that if someone said, would you come and do this? I would work really hard to find a way to say yes. Because they're really fun to work with, and that cast is great. We had this, Aldous and I were kicking around this fan fiction idea about Hardison, Chaos, Parker, and Elliot driving what's essentially the mystery machine around the American Southwest, solving crimes together. Oh my God! Right? I know, it's amazing. It's super great. It'll never happen, but I'm just putting it out there because I know there's people who write fan fiction, and I just want to encourage you to get to work. Again, you cannot see me smiling behind my mask.
And 2 questions down the middle, one right here.
Thank you. I wanted to ask about your relationship with the Next Generation cast.
Okay.
Are everyone's still pretty tight and get together every once in a while? And then secondly, the other series, did you develop any relationships with the other series cast members?
Which other series?
Well, the Star Trek series.
Okay. The Next Generation cast is my family. We're, I'm just going to bring it down for a second, and I apologize for that. If you haven't read my book, you don't know this. I was abused as a kid, like relentlessly abused. I had an incredibly abusive father and a super manipulative mother who used me to feel important, who forced me to become an actor when I didn't want to do it at all, and then gaslighted me about it until I was in my mid-40s, and I said, I will not take this anymore. Either you treat me like a person or you're out of my life. That left this, there is a black hole in my heart where the unconditional love of a person's parents belongs. Every child is entitled to that. My parents are garbage and didn't give it to me. The cast of The Next Generation did. The cast of The Next Generation showed up every day, all the time, when I didn't know I needed them to show up. They just did it. They were always there for me and have remained there for me for we're closing in on 37 years or something like that. So we're incredibly close. We have a group chat that we're in every single day. When something really wonderful and exciting happens to me, I text them and ask them if they'll be my mom and dad for a minute so that I can just let them know what's going on, and they always receive it and always give back that love and approval that I really hoped that I would always have from them. I absolutely cherish every single one of them being part of my life. It is something I am insanely, intensely grateful for. In my role as the host of The Ready Room, I have had this phenomenal privilege, just ridiculous privilege, of getting to meet so many actors from all the new Star Trek series. And this is weird, right? I just turned 50. I don't feel like that at all. I don't feel the way I imagined a 50-year-old being when I was a kid. I feel like I'm a child with just a lot of adult responsibilities that I pass off onto my wife as much as I possibly can so I can go play video games. And when I get to go and work on that show, I'm like, are you kidding me? I get to be a big crazy fan with all these people who I freaking love. Well, it turns out all of them grew up watching Next Generation, and I'm older than all of them, which is weird because I have to constantly remind myself, that's right, I'm actually older than Ensign Mount. That's weird because he's the captain. That's strange. And they've all been wonderful. Everybody that we've had on the show has been super great. A lot of people, a lot of members of the current in-production Star Trek shows have talked to me about what it means to be in Star Trek as long as I've been in Star Trek, because they might be in Star Trek as long as I've been in Star Trek too, which gives me this amazing privilege and this incredible gift of being to someone from Disco or someone from Strange New Worlds who George Takei was to me. I get to pay that forward and pass that on a little bit, and it really feels really good and really special and wonderful. They're great. I can tell you that everybody who is involved in Star Trek right now absolutely gets it. They know why we love it. They know why it's important to everybody. They appreciate the privilege, and they understand that they are caretaking something for, if we're all really lucky, 5 to 7 years, as this thing exists that's bigger than all of us involved in it, that's existed for 55 years. And we just have it for this tiny little bit of time while it goes on for the next 55 years. And they all get that and take that responsibility and the privilege of it really, really seriously. And I cannot believe that I just get to go back week after week after week to talk with them, and that they're so excited when I come to the set. And we had some people from Strange New Worlds come to the Ready Room who I had never met before, and they had talked to people from Disco, and they were like, oh, we heard how great this is, and everybody says such cool things about you, and we're so excited. And I was just like, what even is any of this? None of this makes any sense at all. I feel like Lenny with the rabbit, if I'm afraid I'm gonna pet it to death because I love it so much. But yeah, it's been pretty great.
And question right behind him.
Hey, Will, thanks for being here. Is there any life lesson or professional lesson or just about the business of being in Hollywood you might have learned from either Rob Reiner or the older boys like Kiefer or John?
When I was a kid, I wasn't able to learn anything from anybody. I didn't understand that. I just didn't have, that was a language I didn't speak. As I've gotten older, I learned lots and lots and lots of things as they apply specifically to actors. You have to love it the way that you love not starving, to like really do all of the things that are required to get to just show up and do all those things all the time. And if you don't need it that much, it's just not worth it. The most important thing that I think anybody can do on the set, regardless of what their particular job is show up, pull your weight, do your job, and respect that everybody else there is doing exactly the same thing. And that's how we're going to do 12 pages today. Otherwise, we're going to have a really long, really difficult day where everybody's kind of moving in different directions. And we always say, like, let's just remember, we're making entertainment for people. Like, we're going to do our very best, and the hours are long, and the work is hard, and sometimes things are dangerous, and all of that goes on. But we're making entertainment. And I think that's really important, and I think it's important that everybody remembers that. In these last few years, as we have endured fascism in our government, as we have endured this pandemic that just does not seem to want to stop, we've all turned to entertainment to help us get through all of this stuff. We've all gone to books and music and TV and movies and things like that, and it's really important for the people who make that to remember those late hours where we feel just like, gosh, if, this isn't nearly as important as something another person does. It actually kind of is, and I'm really proud to be part of that tradition.
Down front on the other side.
Yeah, hi. I was wondering, what was your favorite episode of The Big Bang Theory that you were on, and what were your memories from being on that show?
So it's kind of a cop-out, but it's the truth. Every episode I did was my favorite episode. Like, as much fun as you think we had, so first of all, you're right, we did have that much fun. Now I want you to take that number, whatever it is in your head, double it. We had more fun than that. Like, we had so much fun, you can't imagine it. And it was the most amazing thing ever. The episode that I have to pick, and I actually do have an answer for this, is going to the premiere of Star Wars, where I get to come out in a Star Trek uniform, and the greatest line I have ever said or ever will say in my entire career, live long and suck it. It's such a great line. I was like, really? I get to do this? So in that episode, when I come down the thing in the whole uniform and all that stuff, I just thought, this is amazing. I love this. Well, before we did the rehearsal, the way it works on a sitcom is on Wednesday we go in and we read the script around the table, and then we do a little bit of really loose blocking in scenes in the afternoon. Then on Thursday morning we come in and we start rehearsing on the set all the stuff that's going to go up in front of the audience. And then we do that all day on Thursday, and then Thursday night the executives, people come in and they watch us do it. They give us notes for things that get changed. The process repeats itself on Friday. On Monday, we generally come in, and if we have things that we have to shoot in advance because it's just not practical to do it in front of the audience, Mondays are the days that we generally spend doing that. So the episode where we're doing all the bowling, everything in the bowling alley, that took like 10 hours to shoot because of the way they had to move the cameras around. So we shot all of that on a Monday, and then on Tuesday, we actually get up in front of the audience and do it that night. So on Friday afternoon, we were going into that set to do that scene for the network and the executives and everybody. And they had already seen me in just the costume. And I don't remember who it was. It was either someone from makeup or wardrobe, brought me backstage little Spock ears and said, do you want to put the little Spock ears on? And I was like, try to stop me. So I put the Spock ears on, and the thing is, nobody knew. We didn't tell the executives, which is an enormous breach of protocol. But we took the chance because we thought the surprise that they're going to see that is going to make them laugh is going to convince them to go ahead and commit to this because they know the audience is going to do the same thing. And it paid off exactly the way that we wanted it to, that we hoped that it would. Shortly after that episode aired, I went to the actual premiere of Rise of Skywalker at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and I went in an original series Star Trek uniform. So I went... My all-time favorite Star Trek uniform, of my favorite one of any series, is the green one that Captain Kirk would wear when Shatner was feeling a little tubby. And I love that uniform. I'm crazy about it. So I wore that to the thing. And our local news was there. And the Channel 9 news reporter comes up to me and is like, "Why are you wearing a Star Trek uniform to a Star Wars premiere?" And I said, "Well, I did it once before, and it was very well received, so I thought I would do it again." And she was like, "You did it once before, when?" And I said, from a certain manner of how did I say it? I said, what's the Obi-Wan Kenobi's line? From a certain point of view, thank you. From a certain point of view, I did this in front of I don't know, 70 million people. And she was like, "Wait, what?" And I said, I said I did this on the Big Bang Theory. She's like, "Oh my God, I get it." All of that happened after the segment was done. When she goes she's talking to the people in the newsroom, and one of the people in the newsroom goes, "That's Wil Wheaton from Star Trek The Next Generation and the Big Bang Theory." And she was like, "What?" And the person in the newsroom was like, "Yeah, they just did this on the Big Bang Theory. This is a really good joke." So I felt like, look, I've been on every TV in the world. Nothing compares to being on the local news, man. That's making it. That's amazing. Pat Harvey knows my name. That was a really big deal for me.
Okay, I got 3 in a row here. Let's start here.
Yes, I wanted to make a comment. I really enjoyed your videos about Dungeons and Dragons that you were doing. At the time, I was in a campaign at my local library, and it gave me ideas. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
That was quick. Nice. And we have a question back here.
Hello, Will. Thank you for coming to Pittsburgh. My question is, well, first, as I mentioned at your table, I enjoyed watching how your character Wesley Crusher evolved on Next Gen. My question is there any ideas or thoughts of things that you wanted to do with your character, or are you satisfied with how your character developed on the show?
I feel like the promise of Wesley Crusher was never realized on Next Generation. The promise of Wesley Crusher, I really very strongly feel is realized in Adira on Disco. They are awkward and anxious and trying their very, very best to be right there with all of the adults, and they second guess themselves, and they do all those things that I did, and they do all those things that young people do when we are put in a place where we're around a bunch of competent, really professional adults, and we just don't really know. We don't have the skills yet to kind of relate to them. Where I felt that the writers kind of missed it with Wesley is they took all of that and threw it all away. We never saw him go through the fire. We only saw him come out as this incredibly brilliant, really smart kind of idea of the super smart kid who, for the first few seasons, never grew beyond being an idea. Eventually, he does a little bit. And there were probably 5 or 6 episodes that I did around that time that I think are great, that I really loved. I have been re-watching Next Generation. I went through the first 4 seasons, and I put together Wesley Crusher's story. I pulled out episodes to make a playlist of just what Wesley's story arc is. And I've been re-watching all of it, episodes I had completely forgotten about. And there are these things that are lovely. There's an episode early on in season 2 where Worf is having a really hard time, and Wesley's upset about it because Worf is his friend, and Wesley finds out Worf needs to do this Klingon ritual, and we've got to do it for him because we're his friends, right? And he just kind of makes it happen, and it's cool. but it would have been, I think it would have been so much better if we had seen him struggle with it a little bit and seen him sort of like make mistakes and things along the way. That absolutely would happen now if we were doing serialized storytelling. But back then it was 42 minutes per episode and we were out and it was all we could do. So they really did the very best that they could with him. By the time we're getting into like seasons 4 and 5, we're starting to see some of those other pieces of him and the other shades of him. And I thought that some of the really good work that I did as Wesley Crusher happened in those later seasons. The first duty, I think, is really good. I think Final Mission is my best episode. It's the best written episode that I'm in. And I think it's, when I watch it, I see the most complex and interesting acting choices that I ever made. It is not a coincidence that it was me and Patrick Stewart in a hole in the ground for 5 days. There's this legend, there's a story about guys that played hockey with Wayne Gretzky in the 80s. And they would say that playing with him made them better because when Wayne Gretzky's on the ice, he can give the puck to anybody. And you don't want to be the guy who wasn't ready for Wayne Gretzky's pass. So when you're in a scene with Patrick Stewart, he can do anything. And you don't want to be the actor who ruined the take where Patrick Stewart did something brilliant because you lost focus for a second. I figured that out when I was 15. And that work ethic has served me very, very well ever since.
Question right behind.
I think my favorite thing that you have been in is The Ready Room. I love that show.
Me too. I love it.
My question is, how do you manage to maintain your professional attitude? Well, I can tell by looking at you, you're all like, inside. How do you manage it?
It's hard. It is, it's a challenge. I feel like I have this wonderful, unique opportunity on Ready Room. I can bring everybody into the room where it happens, and I can be this like translator. I can speak inside baseball set language, and I can speak fan language, and I can bring them together and turn that into a single conversation. And I like doing that because I can talk to the people who gift us with their time. I can talk to them as both of those people, a fellow member of Starfleet, and like, we're legacy Star Trek, right? Like Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, the original series, we are now categorized with the original series, which blows my mind, right? Like, because there's new Star Trek, and they like want to talk to those of us that did this so long ago to kind of like find out what that is all about. I'm aware of these things, and I do my best to be respectful of them. I know what it is like to be interviewed by somebody whose question is, "You're so cool." It's not great. And it's really easy for me to do that. It's really easy for me to just lose it and wander off. I did it with Jess Bush, just wander off on some tangent about how like she's an artist, and I was like, I just want to talk about your art, right? And I can hear the audience going, when are they going to get to the fireworks factory? And we're going to find out about Nurse Chapel. And I'm like, I know, but the art. So I have had conversations with everybody on the team. If you ever see me just like 100% flipping out and going like full Chris Farley show, you need to get in my ear and tell me so that I can dial it back. And then I watch the episodes and I give myself notes. I watch them and I see, all right, you were a little too talkative in this episode. That was a really good balance of enthusiasm, and you know that question actually came out exactly the way you wanted it to. Those sorts of things. And I have a lot of support from the people that I work with. So those parts where I'm just like, all right, listen, I'm just going to drop all pretense of being a professional. Most of those don't make it. Most of those don't make it onto the air. But I'd say that 3 out of 4 people who come and sit on the couch with me are as excited to be there as I am that they are there. They're having a good time with it too. Like, I feel like it's important for everyone in this room to know the people who are making Star Trek right now, the people on Lower Decks, Disco, and Strange New Worlds, they love Star Trek the way we love Star Trek. They care about it the way we care about it. They get it. They understand. And that just really means a lot to me. I just, as a fan and as part of that, as part of the machinery that helped bring Star Trek to where it is today, I think it's unreasonable for us in the audience to expect the actors to love the show the way we do. We don't expect the person who makes our coffee to love the coffee as much as we do, right? But when they do, wow, how cool is that? It's great. So I feel like I'm in a safe place when I'm there. And I trust my editors are going to pull back the most obnoxious fanboying that I do. And it absolutely happens. So it's funny that you mentioned a gag reel because my producer Nick, the last time we were in, so we just shot some episodes. The next new episode of Ready Room is going to air when Lower Decks premieres. I have seen all of season 3 of Lower Decks, and I'm just going to tell you that you are really in for something special. So we shot that for Lower Decks. That comes out, and then we're doing a mid-season for Lower Decks and an end of the season for Lower Decks. And then we're either in for Picard or Strange New Worlds. I don't know which. It depends on production schedules. Probably have told you more than I should have. So if anybody finds out about this, you so did not hear it from me. I expect all of you to lie on my behalf. Very important to me. Thank you.
We got time for one more question. You're headed back to your table after this to sign?
I am.
Okay, so keep that in mind. If you didn't have time for your question, please go visit them. You know you want to visit them and hang out. Here's our last question. Let's do it.
Hi, Will. This panel has been really fun so far.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you for being so lovely. My question is, I know that obviously we're here to talk about Star Trek. No problem with that. But what kind of media have you been enjoying lately? Like, have you read any good books lately? Any TV shows you've binged? Like, what do you like to watch?
I just finished a Netflix series called Alice in Borderland that I really enjoyed. As far as, like, it's very much in that battle royale, Hunger Games, Squid Game kind of milieu. It's one of the better takes on that world, and I've really enjoyed it. I just finished that. I have been playing EA Sports NHL 22 for about 1.5 years now, but I'm playing it as an RPG. So, like, I'm doing a create a character and leveling him, and I'm, like, emotionally invested in his story, and I hold fake press conferences with him on my Instagram stories feed, where I post screenshots of him talking into the microphone, like answering people's questions and stuff. Maybe it's a little weird, but it's really, really, really fun for me. I've really enjoyed that. And then I just started a game called Stray on the PS5, which I love the story of it, the artwork of it, the design, the visual design. I have gotten to a level where this happens in games. There are games where the game goes, I am going to assert that I am a video game. And now you have to do video game things. And I'm like, but I was doing story and exploration and puzzle things. And it's like, nope, you're going to have to shoot a bunch of things now. And I've gotten to that point, and now I'm kind of stuck. So the game is not something I play every day. This thing is now, I got to get through this. It's like work. So it's like, all right, I'm going to have to wait for the day that I grind through this level to get back where it's fun. Finally, I lost the ability to focus long enough to read a book sometime into the 3rd month of the pandemic, and I don't know why. I just don't know why. I know I'm not the only one. I have heard that this has happened to tons and tons. I see people nodding their heads. It's happened to a lot of us, and I don't know why. I'm slowly working my way back in. I've been doing audiobooks a lot when I walk, and that's really, really, really helpful. So I just finished Parable of the Sower, which I absolutely loved. It was sensational. And then I'm starting Chuck Klosterman's The 90s. He's an essayist. He's my age. We have a lot in common. He writes things the way that he writes the way I talk. And he's just done a lot more interesting things than me. Thank you for asking about that. That's not a very, people really don't want to know that sort of thing. So I thank you. I appreciate that. I want you all to know that I appreciate you taking time. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here today, and I really appreciate you making the time to sit here and listen to me. I'm right around the corner. I'll be here all weekend long. I am obligated to tell you all that I have a book out. It's called Still Just a Geek, an annotated memoir. Thank you. I'm very proud of it. It's a book that was 20 years in the making. I am a New York Times bestselling author because of the book, and I'm really excited about that. I also want you to know that coming up next month on Star Trek Day, IDW is going to drop the 400th issue of the Star Trek comic, and I got to write a story for it. So I got to write a Wesley Traveler story. And to the best of my knowledge, other than the pages that he was, other than the Wesley Traveler bit that was in Star Trek Picard, it is the only other Wesley Traveler bit that exists in the world. I had to get this story approved all the way up at the highest levels of Star Trek, so that I didn't contradict canon, and so that they would approve everything. Not only did they approve everything, I had to take one thing out because it contradicted canon, which is a bummer because it was a cool scene. But I had to get all of this approval, and from the highest levels of Star Trek, what came down from like Kurtzman's office was, "This is a great story." And that made me feel really, really good, because all I want to do in my life is be a writer. And if people are like, "We like your writing," that makes me feel like I could probably keep doing this, at least do another one. So those are the big things that are sort of coming up, that are happening right now. I really appreciate you. Really appreciate all of you being here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Give it up, Wil Wheaton. You know what to do. It's so nice having you.
Hi, this is Aaron Ashmore, and you are watching Phantom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe like now. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom.